Okay, hello. My name is Arlene, also known as B Sugar, as my stage name. Yeah, I do a little singing and stuff. I am a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and I have started reading the Constitution. Let me get the right words. The Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Act 4 of 1976. I have been reading that um, in another vid, and this is a continuation of that, right? I read before. Let me get the site. From the site www.ttparliament.org, I got this information from, and I read chapter 1, the recognition and protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms, part 1. And I also read sub I read up to subsection 1 of section 5, and I also read section 54 because it made reference to section 54 within that um, within section 5, right? So continuing, subsection 2 of section 5, without prejudice to subsection 1, but subject to this chapter and to section 54, Parliament may not: A. Authorize or effect the arbitrary detention, imprisonment, or exile of any person. B. Impose or authorize the imposition of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. C. Deprive a person who has been arrested or detained: 1. Of the right to be informed promptly and with sufficient particularity of the reason for his arrest or detention. 2. If the right to retain and instruct without delay a legal adviser of his own choice and to hold communication with him. 3. Of the right to be brought promptly before an appropriate judicial authority. 4. Of the remedy by way of habeas corpus for the determination of the validity of his detention and for his release if the detention is not lawful. Now that word, habeas corpus, or habeas corpus, whatever, it is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as a law that states that a person who has been arrested should not be kept in prison longer than a particular period of time unless a judge in court has decided that it is right. So continuing from that, habeas corpus, for the determination of the validity of his detention and for his release if the detention is not lawful. D. Authorize a court, tribunal, commission, board, or other authority to compel a person to give evidence unless he is afforded protection against self-incrimination and, where necessary to ensure such protection, the right to legal representation. E. Deprive a person of the right to a fair hearing in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice for the determination of his rights and obligations. F. Deprive a person charged with a criminal offense of the right: 1. To be presumed innocent until proved guilty according to law, but this shall not invalidate a law by reason only that the law imposes on any such person the burden of proving particular facts. 2. To a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. Or 3. To reasonable bail without just cause. G. Deprive a person of the right to the assistance of an interpreter in any proceedings in which he is involved or in which he is a party or a witness before a court, commission, board, or other tribunal, if he does not understand or speak English. Or H. Deprive a person of the right to such procedural provisions as are necessary for the purpose of giving effect and protection to the aforesaid rights and freedoms. Right? So, like I said, I'm just reading. Who wants to hear will hear. Right, so I covered part 1, chapter 1, part 1, section 4, section 5. Now we look at part 3, exceptions for emergencies. Section 7, subsection 1. Without prejudice to the power of Parliament to make provision in the premise, but subject to this section, where any period of public emergency exists, the President may, due regard being had to the circumstances of any situation likely to arise or exist during such period, make regulations for the purpose of dealing with that situation and issue orders and instructions for the purpose of the exercise of any powers conferred on him or any other person by any act referred to in subsection 3 or instrument made under this section or any such act. Subsection 2. Without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1, regulations made under that subsection may, subject to section 11, make provision for the detention of persons. Subsection 3. An act that is passed during a period of public emergency and is expressly declared to have effect only during that period, or any regulations made under subsection 1 shall have effect even though inconsistent with sections 4 and 5, except in so far as its provisions may be shown not to be reasonably justifiable for the purpose of dealing with the situation that exists during that period. Who wants to hear will hear, and who wants to read will read. Section 8, subsection 1. Subject to this section for the purposes of this chapter, the President may from time to time make a proclamation declaring that a state of public emergency exists. The President. Sorry, I just say that the President because I wanted to emphasize the word the President, but the President didn't come after the word exists. When you go on the site and you look it up, you will see. Subsection 2. A proclamation made by the President under subsection 1 shall not be effective unless it contains a declaration that the President is satisfied that a public emergency has arisen as a result of the imminence of a state of war between Trinidad and Tobago and a foreign state. B. That a public emergency has arisen as a result of the occurrence of any earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, outbreak of pestilence, or of infectious disease, or other calamity, whether similar to the foregoing or not. Or C. That action has been taken or is immediately threatened by any person of such a nature and on so extensive a scale as to be likely to endanger the public safety or to deprive the community or any substantial portion of the community of supplies or services essential to life. Section 9, subsection 1. Within 3 days of the making of the proclamation, the President shall deliver to the Speaker for presentation to the House of Representatives a statement setting out the specific grounds on which the decision to declare the existence of a state of public emergency was based, and a date shall be fixed for a debate on this statement as soon as practicable, but in any event no later than 15 days from the date of the proclamation. Subsection 2. A proclamation made by the President for the purposes of and in accordance with Section 8 shall, unless previously revoked, remain in force for 15 days. um Who will hear? Will hear. Section 10, subsection 1. Oh, that's for so I will let you know there are little pointers in emergence, and section 8 was period of public emergency. It's like anyway, section 8 is period of public emergency. Section 9 is grounds for and initial duration of proclamation. So section 10 is extension of proclamation. I don't think I need to say that. Extension, hoping not. You can read it on your own. Section 11 is detention of persons. I will touch that. Section 11, subsection 1, where any person who is lawfully detained by virtue only of such an act or regulations as is referred to in section 7, so requests at any time during the period of that detention and thereafter, not earlier than 6 months after he last made such a request during that period, his case shall be reviewed by an independent and impartial tribunal established by law and presided over by a person appointed by the Chief Justice from among the persons entitled to practice in Trinidad and Tobago as barristers or solicitors. Subsection 2. On any review by a tribunal in pursuance of subsection 1 of the case of any detained person, the tribunal may make recommendations concerning the necessity or expediency of continuing his detention to the authority by whom it was ordered, but unless otherwise provided by law, that authority shall not be obliged to act in accordance with such recommendations. Right? So I just touched on those things because I was compelled to touch on those things, to read these parts of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, which is available to the public at large on the website www.ttparliament.org. You can judge for yourself the manner in which I read it. And no, I don't have an accent. I just like to speak my words properly, but I don't have an accent. And you can go up and read the Constitution for yourself. Trinidad and Tobago, we need to be informed and correctly informed at all times. This is our country. This is our Constitution. It was on the internet. You could, wherever you get an internet service, you could go and get it and read it. You could get it from the government printery, and you can read, and you could understand, right? Because certain things are happening, and we need understanding, and we need to understand what is going on. You understand? Because sometimes people like to read between the lines. You don't have to read between the lines. You just have to read the lines. But how can you read the lines if you don't know the lines? So read the lines and identify who is reading between the lines, who is reading around the lines, and who just omitting lines, right? To ensure they get their way. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye-bye. Oh, stop now.